Hello everyone, this is Todd Rogowski, and I'm a reporter from the Mountainair Dispatch. Right now, what you're listening to in the background is the sound of people gathering in the Dr. Soul Community Center in Mountainair for the New Mexico Department of Transportation presentation regarding its proposed project to improve, and those are New Mexico DOT's words, not mine, Interstate Route 60. I'm recording this on November 17, the day after the meeting. And I'm recording it from the poultry farm my wife and I have here on the edge of Mountainair. Hopefully you find the sounds of chickens and turkeys relaxing, as you may hear them in the background while I talk. Now, this recording is brought to you by the Friends of Salinas Pueblo Missions, who invite you to join them for the annual Luminario de Abo on December 2nd, 2023. And they describe this as a magical evening with flickering luminaria amongst the historical ruins of the San Gregorio de Abo mission. As a photographer, actually, I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a great evening visually. And there will be a Roman Catholic Mass at 4 p.m., followed by a posada, which is the traditional reenactment of the Holy Family's search for lodging. And the public will be able to tour the grounds of the ruins amidst the flickering luminaria, beginning around 5:30 p.m. And during the event, there will be refreshments for all ages and piñatas for the children. If you'd like more information on this event, please go to www.friendsofsalinas.org. That's www.friendsofsalinas.org. For now, though, let's get back to last night's meeting. What you're hearing now is people signing in at the front of the hall. They're looking at posters depicting the proposed improvements, and they're greeting friends and neighbors. This goes on for roughly 20 minutes or so, and I'll spare you having to listen to that white noise. The presentation will last roughly for an hour, after which there will be an hour and 20 minutes of questioning from the audience. That's when the contentious part of this event occurs. We'll get to that in a minute, though. For now, though, let's talk about NMDOT's proposed plan and why they're having this meeting with the public. To do that, I'd like to discuss John Tashik, the Senior Environmental Science for Barr Engineering Company. You won't hear much from John during this recording, although he does talk. During most of the meeting, John sat in the audience, watching the interaction between audience members and taking notes, ostensibly to record public comment on the project. John explained to me after the meeting that he had been hired 4 years ago for this project to give a sense of the time frame involved in this leading up to last night's meeting. The main speaker during this presentation was Matthew Nybert, an associate with Albuquerque engineering firm Sauter Miller & Associates. He was accompanied by NMDOT personnel Dana Garcia and Shelby Hoagland. In administrative agency meetings I've attended in my time as a reporter and in my past life as an attorney, these meetings are often calm and pleasant. Firms and government agencies send their most personable staff because they want to keep the local public happy that money is being spent on their community, rather than upset at potentially permanent disruptions. As an administrative note, please take note of the survey I've posted on my website and with this audio. Let me know if you are interested in more audio content of this type, or if you'd prefer regular articles, or if you'd prefer videos. Thank you. It helps. The US-60 project is intended to expand and repair a 1.4-mile stretch of Interstate 60 that runs through the center of Mountainair. In an email interview prior to last night's meeting, John Tashik said that the total estimated cost for the 1.4-mile-long project is approximately $20 million. I asked John whether the NMDOT has done any economic impact studies related to this project or projects like this. John responded that, quote, "The NMDOT has done many Main Street improvement enhancement projects over the years. For example, currently on Paseo del Pueblo Sur in Taos and Cerrillos Road in Santa Fe. However," John said, "there had never been a comprehensive analytical economic impact study done in New Mexico regarding these projects." I also asked John whether NMDOT had conducted traffic safety analyses regarding the proposed project. John referred me to the website US-60Mountainair.com. That's US, the number 60, then the word Mountainair.com. While the website explains the methodology the project team intends to use for a traffic safety study, it omits the actual findings from that study. At the current moment, it's unknown whether or not such a study has been done. The website also includes a note regarding the historic buildings in Mountainair's central business district, and you're going to hear a lot of talk about this part of town, which runs roughly from the Manzano Mountain Art Council building and the town hall west to Sunset Avenue, just before Mountainair's elementary school. Businesses located there are likely to be the most affected by the construction project. The project website notes that there are 50 historic properties, 5 archaeological sites, and 4 buildings on the National Register of Historic Places within that central business district corridor. The 4 register-listed properties include the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway Depot, the Schaefer Hotel, the Mountainair Municipal Auditorium, which I believe is a reference to the Dr. Saul building, and the Willard Mercantile Company building. That is the location of the Manzano Mountain Art Council, and it's directly located along the north side of US-60 in central Mountainair. And the website notes that this building could require, quote, management, end quote, as part of the study. Management is a broad term, and in this context could mean anything from preservation to eminent domain and then demolition. Neither the website nor last night's meeting sheds clarity on that. And interestingly, you'll hear in this recording that Nybert said that eminent domain is an option, albeit one they want to avoid. For those not familiar with the term eminent domain, it's a legal term referring to the government's taking of property from people or businesses by force. It's governed by the Fifth Amendment, and the Fifth Amendment provides that the government may only exercise this power if they provide just compensation to the property owners. How the government defines just compensation is the key question. The current U.S. Supreme Court doctrine on eminent domain is set forth in the case Kelo versus City of New London, and that's a 2005 U.S. Supreme Court case located at 545 U.S. 469. The next point worth focusing on is that the project representatives expect to only give a week or 2 of notice to businesses before blocking access to their buildings. You'll hear Nybert say that he hopes that buildings will have shared common doorways to mitigate the impact of this problem. I think this could have potentially great impact on small businesses. Less so, though, for national retailers like Dollar General, Family Dollar, and 7-Eleven, which are also outside of that central business district. With these points out of the way, let's listen to the presentation.
We're going to give it a few more minutes, let everybody get sat down. So you guys can make your way to your seats, then we'll have a short presentation. US-60 Mountainair alignment study with the New Mexico Department of Transportation. The control number for this is 510-1350. You might see some 1351s on stuff. That's for when we go into construction. So forgive me if we overlap on some of that, but this study phase portion is 1350. And this project runs from 203.6 to 205, milepost 205 at the edges of town. Real quick, I haven't said my name yet because I'm going to get to that in a minute, so just bear with me. So real quick on our agenda, we've got some introductions, which is where I'll say my name. And the rest of the study team, I'll do my best. Hopefully I don't mess anything up. I'll also talk about the study limits, give a real quick, brief study overview that'll include the study process, where we are right now, where we've been, and where we're going in that project timeline. And we'll also talk about the NEPA process, discuss the purpose and need for this project, and then lay out some alternatives and the recommendations that we have so far. These are recommendations. We're not married to these things, so just bear with us. And then at the end, we'll have questions and discussions. Also after this, we can get back up and go through all the boards and stuff with people again, because I know that's a little bit easier. There is the roll clock, which you are welcome to ride on, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so introductions, the study team. We've got the DOT, Dana Garcia. She's the project development engineer. And then Shelby right next to her. Sorry, Shelby, I don't know your last name. Hoagland. So Shelby. And let's see, my name is Matt Iver. I'm with Sauter Miller and Associates. I missed Jim Murray in the back. He's with DOT. He's the public information officer.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So he's with District 5, and Dana's with North Region Design. Shelby's with District 5. And did I say my name? Okay. I'm with Sauter Miller and Associates. I am the project engineer with Sauter Miller and Associates, the project manager. I've got Devahi, Aveta, and Daniel Acosta. They're with Sauter Miller and Associates also. And John Kashik, he's with R Engineering. So, and he'll be, all your comments, we try to have everybody send their comments through John. It really helps us make sure. Now, just to list the purpose of this project, as we've established it, is to evaluate highway deficiencies, drainage issues, parking conflicts, multimodal safety, and accessibility to determine the need for the improvements and the upgrades. So the purpose drives just about everything for the decisions and the improvements that are made. So from that, the NMDOT is proposing to improve safety, address physical deficiencies, and improve multimodal accessibility. The needs are based on the deteriorating pavement, lack of bicycle and pedestrian facilities, including ADA requirements, drainage issues, skewed intersections, and access management issues. So from that, this is our alternatives analysis. There's, it's just the safety and geometric alignments of the intersections. You guys have identified to us the drainage issues. We've identified some of our own aesthetics through the town, public and business support, environmental considerations, multimodal opportunities, constructability is a big one, cost, and right-of-way. And the right-of-way, we're not anticipating any right-of-way takes that would relocate any buildings or anything at this time. So any of the right-of-way that we are proposing, say for drainage, stormwater detention, or things like that, are vacant lots. We wouldn't relocate somebody unnecessarily. So, the alternatives that we've identified, of course, there's the no-build. That's the one where basically none of the alternatives would work for anything. It's just a maintenance, consideration at that point. That is an alternative. It's not really recommended at this point. Although, moving on from that, we've got roadway section revisions. And so what that one entails, that's the one I was trying to describe at the beginning. It was, right now you have two 12-foot lanes in the rural sections of town. We would modify those to add 8-foot shoulders to those 12-foot lanes. Some of the areas we would also add, either go with bike lanes and curb and gutter and sidewalk, so it would extend the urban section, what I would call the urban section because of the curb and gutter, further through town. So that's another change to the typical roadway section that we have. We also have the central business district parking. It's one of the things that's identified in this corridor. We know there's parking, it's in the right of way, it's in front of the businesses, it's critical to the businesses that it's there. So we want to make it as safe as we can for all the modes that are getting added to the facility, such as bike lanes and the pedestrian access. So that's a central business district parking. We had roundabouts on here. Again, we dropped it out because of the vehicles that use US-60, the large wind turbines, those kinds of things. When we ran our analysis, the back end of the blade was just taking out houses. So kind of eliminated that. Intersection modifications. So a lot of the intersections, when the original alignment for US-60 was established, I don't know when, but when it was established, it came in and a lot of the intersections that were already here, a lot of the roadways that were already here, kind of approached US-60 at odd angles. We found through, just study and everything else that when those odd angles are left like that people have to, crane their necks, and a lot of times that leads to accidents and confusion at the intersection. So we like to straighten those out, make them as perpendicular as we can, eliminate, additional, like if you have a 5-point intersection such as Corbett, that's another one that, we like to reduce those to a normal 4-way intersection if we can. But moving on, drainage alternatives. So for this, because we're going through an urban section, there's not too many options that we have. It's really storm drain, accompanied with curb and gutter and sidewalk. So that's the biggest drainage alternative. Once we capture those flows, we have to do something with it. Once it's in that storm drain pipe, we can't just dump it out anywhere we want. So we try to figure out the best place to put that. Usually it's in some sort of a detention area that holds the water, kind of mitigates it just flowing straight away, and releases it at a controlled rate. That's detention. So that's some of the areas that we're looking at with the storm drain and the drainage alternatives. And then we have some other miscellaneous alternatives. They're listed as miscellaneous. I'll get into those. Just to touch on them real quick, they're things like green bike lanes, grid pattern crosswalks, rapidly rectangular flashing beacons, and ornamental lighting. But the ornamental lighting is kind of it's a higher decision. So, but those are the miscellaneous ones. So getting into a little bit more detail on this rural section, this map, it's on a couple of these things, and it's the best way to describe it is, you've got a red line and a green line. The red line is what we call the rural section. That's where we would apply the rural segment of roadway to that section. And then the green one is urban, so that would be the curb and gutter and sidewalk. Where we have the dash red and green, that's where we were kind of like, well, do we take it? Where do we stop each one? So that was the alternative. I think through our past discussions, we've gone ahead and extended where that dotted red and green would actually just be green at this point. So that would all be urban section. So the curb and gutter and sidewalk goes all, a little bit down even past Linnet Avenue there. So that's the idea. And that's essentially what this next slide lays out. Sorry, I kind of got ahead of myself, but so this is alternative to it. You can kind of see with the arrows. That's just what I explained. You've got the 12-foot driving lanes, 6-foot bike lanes, curb and gutter, and sidewalks. The right-of-way does vary through these sections, But that's the basis for the urban section alternative 2, is to extend it all the way down a little bit past NMDOT. And then we have the central business district section right out here. We've got the 12-foot wide driving lanes, a bike lane. We have a little 2-foot section in there that's basically a valley gutter, but I mean, just kind of ignore that for now. And then we have the parking configurations. There's several different parking configurations on the table, and I'll get into those in just a minute. So that is the central business district section. And then here we have the parking alternatives. Right now we've recommended the back-end angle parking. There were essentially 4 to begin with: head-end angle parking, perpendicular parking, parallel parking, and back-end angle parking. The first 2 that I listed, the head-end angle and perpendicular parking, are actually, they conflict with bicycle lanes, because the bicycle lanes would be behind vehicles that have potential for somebody backing out of the spot and colliding with bicyclists. So our guidance that we have from all of our professional organizations and everything recommend that you don't put bike lanes in that scenario. The 2 scenarios that work with the bike lanes are parallel parking and this back-end angle parking. So that was the reason, and we knew that the parallel parking reduced the number of spaces significantly, and that was a big outcry from previous meetings, that we just didn't want to reduce the parking by that much. The town didn't want the parking reduced by that much, so that was the reason for the recommendation for the back-end angle parking. So I've got a few slides on the back-end angle parking. I think at this point, we really know how it works. Should I show the video, Dana, or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, here's a short video. I have to hold the mic next to the, this thing. My bald head in the way. It starts up, the sound starts a little bit later.
Reversing the parking lanes for more parking spaces than traditional parallel parking spots. And since all the doors open away from traffic, it's safer for loading and unloading. So here are some simple instructions to get you started with 3 easy steps. First, you'll need to find an available parking space and turn on your signal to let others know you intend to park. Next, pull past the space and stop. Finally, put your car into reverse and back into the space using your rear view mirrors to see the parking lanes. That's it. When it's time for you to go, it's easy to reduce traffic such as cars already facing the street. And it's also easier to see cyclists and pedestrians. That's it. Now you're ready to go.
Now you're ready to go. So let's see. Moving on from back-end angle parking, the minor intersection modifications. This is a list of the ones that we recommend to realign. They are, I don't want to go into all of them, but they're pretty well detailed on the roll plot in the back, what that would actually look like. This is essentially the idea behind it, is you've got, a straight through and it's intersecting US-60 at a fairly skewed angle, and it creates a skewed intersection. So we're trying to realign those. Of course, we would like to have them line up, but because of their established streets, it just makes an offset intersection. But that is actually preferable to the skew, according to all of our guidance. Some of the other minor intersection modifications is cul-de-sacing of Corbett Avenue, which Corbett right now intersects US-60 at 3rd Street and US-60 and Corbett all come together in one spot. So it's really a 5-legged intersection. And right now it serves 4 people that we can tell, and I think actually the one off of 3rd, just on the south side of 3rd Street there, I think that driver is actually on 3rd Street, so I don't know that frontage is really on Corbett. So. And then the other one is Beale Street. I know from our conversations just earlier that there's some concern about larger vehicles using that, and needing to come off of US-60. So we can look into that more again. It's just this one, because of the way that Beale Street intersected US-60 right there, it was a preliminary recommendation to the cul-de-sac Beale Street. And the last one is Acoma Street. We know from the past that this is kind of a mud bog of a street. It's also really steep as it approaches US-60. Our recommendation is actually to close this off. We'll keep the access to Chappelle over there, but Acoma Street would essentially be closed off. And then, of course, the drainage improvements are under review. The biggest thing is that solid red line would all be storm drain. We capture the water, different locations in curb drop inlets, and then take it to those light blue areas, which are detention areas. I'm not supposed to call them ponds, but yeah, detention areas. Our vision for these detention areas is not that there are these deep pit holes in the ground that are fenced off. They're probably more like what we call a bioswale, where they hold the water. It may not be surface water for very long. It infiltrates the ground. We would encourage, infiltration through different soil type mitigations that allow that quick infiltration. Probably some trees, shrubs, those kinds of things would also be added into those bioswales. Whatever we can get to fit to kind of make that so it's not this fenced off pit right next to US-60. The other last part is the roadside ditches, those bright green lines, the south edge. So that's pretty much what you have now. It's just a little bit more formalized in our division. So. Then we have the multimodal improvements. This is the sort of miscellaneous. So we've got pedestrian and street lighting. So we'd increase the street lighting. I know that the street lighting out here, we'd get it a little bit more. We'd actually do analysis on it to figure out what the brightness levels are, the uniformity of those street lights, and that kind of stuff. The next one is color pattern crosswalks. So this was out of a study. Well, it wasn't really a study. It was a recommendation from one of the urban plans that had come out, was to use color pattern crosswalks at the crossings. So it's not really shown here, but at the crosswalk, that would be color pattern concrete. But it would still need we would outline the edges of it with white bars. That's required by the traffic guidance. Then we have the rectangular rapid flash beacons. So at some of these crosswalks where there's not a signal, like at 55, we would add additional emphasis to the crosswalk with these, I don't know if you guys have seen these, the rectangular rapid flash beacons. It's really just a bar that sits below the pedestrian sign. Somebody hits the button and it just starts kind of bouncing that light back and forth. So that somebody on US-60 goes, oh, somebody's crossing the road. So it's just kind of adds additional emphasis. And then we have the green bike lanes adjacent to the parking. Again, this just calls out increased heightened awareness that there might be a bicyclist in that lane. So that's the purpose for the green bike lanes. We just repeated this next steps again because, now we've gone through the presentation, just to lay it all out again. We're here at, I think I have the wrong date on there, it's 17th of November. It's the 16th, isn't it? Yes, it is.
You're coming back tomorrow then, right?
What's that?
You're coming back tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be back here tomorrow. But yeah, so it's supposed to say 16 November, and then we'll just move on to finalizing the alignment study by the end of January of next year, and start moving into plan design. So there is the questions. I'm just gonna go to the last slide real quick. This is your input is important to us. So this is the project webpage. John Tashik's physical mailing address is on there as well as his email. We would like to get all the comments wrapped up by December 13th, just so that there's an end date to the comments and we don't have something going on indefinitely. So you're more than welcome. This is on the comment form as well. So all this information, the physical address is on the back, so it's ready to send. So with that, oh, go ahead.
Ask people to identify themselves.
Okay. So with the questions, we do ask that you identify who you are, if you can, just so that we can go full circle with comments, making sure we get all that information written down and everything. So I can pass around the mic or whatever works best for everybody. If I can hear your questions, I might just repeat it along with your name and that kind of stuff. So who's first? Who's on first? Nobody? Oh, go ahead, sir.
My name is Francisco Rueda, and how wide are the parking when you back in? How wide is it?
So I was asked this question earlier, and I don't have that number memorized. We do follow the, it's called the ITE, the Intelligent Transportation Engineering standard for parking. We'll be following that for the wider spaces to accommodate that. So
They're going to be painted on.
we do have them painted. Yeah, we do recommend the paint. Yeah, for sure. So, did you get the name on that one, John? I'm going to get John just a second. So, okay, who is next? Okay, I'll take this one.
My name's Todd Wadowski, I'm with the Mountainair Dispatch. Do you anticipate utilizing eminent domain for any part of this project?
I mean, we do try to avoid that if at all possible. We don't like eminent domain if we don't need it. I mean, you know, eminent domain usually comes in if somebody refuses to sell the property and it holds up the project. Again, we don't anticipate relocating anybody. So I don't anticipate any eminent domain, but it's a little bit too early to really know that for sure. So, you know, it's kind of one of those things that if needed, it's one of the government tools that's there, but we don't like to use it if we don't have to. I mean, even with eminent domain, either way, it's fair compensation for property. So we have an independent assessor assess the property and determine the property's value. We're not part of that. It's between the property owner and the assessor, and then that information is negotiated. And it's paid out at fair market value as much as I know the process. I'm not an assessor or right-of-way person, but that's what I know of my experience from the past. So does that answer your question?
My second question is, how long do you anticipate the central business district to be closed to traffic?
I mean, that's a good question. It's a really wide corridor. I'm going to give John just a minute. Oh, yes. Sorry. Yeah, so the question is how long do we anticipate the central business district section to be closed during construction? Did I get that right? Okay. So, I mean, we don't actually anticipate closing the road off. We might have to be selective about how we reconstruct, especially like the sidewalks and stuff like that in front of businesses. We're going to have to get really creative about how we allow for accessibility to different businesses while we reconstruct either the street or the sidewalk in front of those businesses. We're kind of hoping that, maybe if there's some doors between properties or things like that, we may be able to use that while they, rip out and replace the sidewalks in front of businesses, or, work with the contractor, between the contractor and the owner to figure out times that work best if maybe a business is closed and that kind of thing. So, I mean, it's been done in the past. A lot of our DOT plans basically say right on the general notes in the front that you can't close access to businesses. The contractor has to maintain some form of access to that business. Granted, some of these are, you know, if there's only one door into a residence or a location, we're gonna have to get kind of creative on how we address that. I don't have the answers for you right now. I'm not actually a contractor, being an engineer. We try to encourage certain things and we'll facilitate that as best we can.
When would you allow businesses to know that?
We typically require, in most of our plans that I've done in the past, usually a week, and in certain cases, you know, two weeks or a month ahead of time, that contractor coordination is gonna be a big deal with the property owners, so. Well, a week is normally what we do, but in this case, I imagine we would go with at least 2 weeks. Yeah, if not more. So, does that work?
Can we go back to the slide for the central parking real quick? Sure.
John, my name is Roy Spencer. And so I've got a couple questions about this real quick. So first of all, the center of the street there, that's in red, is that just representing the drain system, or is that actually going to be something that rises above ground?
So that is intended, hopefully, can everybody hear me if I don't have the mic? That's, in this scenario with back end angle parking, that would be a raised median. It's, you know, 4 to 6 inches high.
Okay, my question is the same on the curb and gutter that's over at the intersections where it extends out to the street. Is that also going to be raised?
That is also raised. It's not shown here, but we would have handicap ramps
Okay.
on the corners.
I just want to make the point that this town occasionally takes significant downfalls of snow. And so the way that that section of town is managed needs to be considered. The snow plows will have some difficulty in clearing that, whereas how they typically work today, they can have most of our downtown cleared the first day because they can clear out those areas. But I think some consideration needs to be given to snow, even though it's only occasional up here, it can be severe.
Yeah, no, thank you for your comment, and that's definitely a good consideration for us to have to know. So yeah, we'll I think there was. Sorry, I'm trying to be selective about.
My name is Lou Diner. You probably know me. I have a couple of comments. When we first did this whole plan, there was only the Dollar General here. We now have a Family Dollar, and that whole corner where that curve is, down by the Family Dollar, is screwed up. The Dollar General goes downhill. The road is for shit. The gas station, that entrance is for shit. That whole part of the road is really terrible. Excuse my language, but gotta be honest. The road really is terrible. I don't see anything on this plan. You don't even have the Dollar General on the plan. Another thing is about this backing parking. If you go to your picture of the 1, 2, 3, you're showing how easy it is to back in. Well, if you're, first of all, it doesn't show the bike lane. So what are you going to have to do? Go in the middle of the street, in between the bike lane, then back in. And if you're doing this and there's a 40-foot tractor trailer behind you, you're going to stop, slowly back in. You think that truck is going to be... That is not going to work the way that you have it there. I mean, with the bike lane, I see no need for the bike lane, first of all. And it's separated, so you can't really pull in. According to your diagram here, you have a car, pull back, bike lane, driving lane. So you're in the driving lane, you got to back through the bike lane to back in?
Yes.
Okay. So if there's a bike there, or people bicycling, you got to sit there till they pass by and then back in. Why don't you have the bike lane, I don't know, arranged differently so it's not in the way of traffic?
Well, we had considered trying to do that, but then if we put the bike lanes in front of, or between, let's say between the parking and the sidewalk, then you end up with a lot of, you know, we're not sure if pedestrians would get hit by bicyclists crossing over that, you know, so, I mean, there's just a whole lot of studies that say don't do it that way. That provide other stuff, so, I don't know if I got to the first question. Did I answer it?
No, there's no answer.
Oh.
Dollar General.
Dollar General.
That corner.
Oh, okay, yeah, the Dollar General did come in after we started the study.
Dollar General was terrible, the road there is terrible, the gas station is terrible, going to the Rock is terrible. That whole side of the road, there should be sidewalks on the other side of the road.
Okay. We've got quite a few other questions. I don't know what order that's to go in, so hopefully I don't. Oh, okay.
Hi, good evening. Mountainair resident Kathy Foz Garcia, also the superintendent at Salinas Pueblo Missions. Our headquarters, office, and museum and administrative buildings are in the CD, the business district. Just had a couple questions about once construction starts, how long will it take? What is the maintenance life cycle of the project? So after the project is completed, what should the community anticipate with when potholes, repaving, that kind of stuff, or striping would occur? And then what are the speed limits if they are going to be changing for any of these sections?
Give John just a minute to catch up. Okay, so the first question on construction duration. One, it really depends on if this whole project gets constructed as one single, project. I'd anticipate, at least a couple of years because of the storm drain. There's going to be some conflicts, some relocation of utilities, those kinds of things tend to take a while. They're outside of our control as much, based on the utility information we have right now, there's not going to be very many, but there's always things that are bound. So I'm just going to make the broad statement, of a couple of years, especially with the location that we're at. It takes a little while because of weather conditions. They do stop contractors. It's not great to pave during cold weather, that kind of thing. We can do concrete to a certain extent, but we try to avoid doing that too much. So I don't know the actual, I'm not going to put months or anything like that on it. I'm just going to say probably a couple of years. I mean, I would like to say we could get it done faster, but I'm trying to be realistic, not getting too much. It's going to take a while. The good part is that at least Mountainair has alternative routes for the traffic. I know it's an impacted business. We definitely understand that. But I mean, the traffic through town, you're not having to, we can reroute that off of US-60. So that's definitely a positive. Let's see, middle question. What was the middle question? Maintenance, yes. Maintenance, how long will this project last once it's completed? So usually the way the DOT sets up their stuff is about 20 years. 20-year life cycle is the cost for a lot of the stuff. Sometimes it can be a little bit less, but usually like the bigger stuff, the storm drains and those kinds of things, 20 years. There will be maintenance to the pavement. It's not we pave it and come back in 20 years. The pavement will crack and those kinds of things. Pavement doesn't last 20 years on its own. It usually needs some maintenance, some crack sealing, those kinds of things. But 20 years is usually what we establish for traffic and those other things. So, did I get that about right? Okay. Hopefully not up here telling lies. I've got one more part of that question to answer, which
Speed limits.
oh, the speed limits. I know there was some desire to change the speed limits, especially through the central business district, to either 25, I think, or 20. And that's something we can look at in the study, once we get into design, and we can work it out with the district to see about, modifying that speed limit. We're hoping that a lot of what will help with the speed limit and the speed control will be things like the bulb outs, and having a median in the middle will slow people down. We realize that it's a maintenance issue for snow and things like that. So we've encountered that in the past, and we'll work with the town and the DOT, who does quite a bit of snow removal, to figure out what our options are as far as handling the curbing better.
I just want to make a quick comment on that speed limit thing. I'm the town clerk of the town of Mountainair, and we did pass a resolution, our governing body, to reduce all the speed limits on Highway 60 and 55 to 25. We basically said all roads in Mountainair need to be 25 or less. And I sent it to NMDOT, and that was about 3 or 4 years ago, no response. But I just wanted to say there is a document in place where the governing body does support reducing the speed limit. We need that to include in your.
For sure. Do you know if that resolution states like the limits? I mean, I know you said the
It was
town.
like 3 years ago, so I can't remember. That's before this whole project started.
Right, okay. So yeah, I do recall vaguely that document and our discussion on that, so, you know, I mean, it's one of the things we'll work out with the district to see about lowering that, so. Let's see, yes, yes, sir.
Phil Archuleta with PNM Signs here on there. You talked about economic development. I'm just kind of wondering, what kind of economic development are you talking about? Is there going to be any jobs created out of your program here? And if so, what type of economic development are you talking about? I'm interested in creating jobs here, so I'm just wondering.
Typically, you know, during the construction period, you know, when they're spending, you know, $17 to $20 million, there's a bump in the local economy, you know, a multiplier for employment. Although some of it's going to come in from outside, possibly, you know, shops and goods and services and materials. So there's a model that shows that, you know, what the multiplier and the direct and indirect impacts in the economy will be from spending so much money. I don't necessarily think that's an accurate model for a small project like this. But I mean, that's typically hotel rooms, things like that. There's a short-term benefit to the economy from the money spent. And then usually property values, and you have to also, along with property values, goes real estate taxes. Those things usually go up after an improvement's been made. And then, you know, maybe a more attractive place for new businesses to locate, businesses to get, you know, loans to make improvements, that sort of thing. So those are the kinds of economic development that may come from the project. I don't really think we can predict that, you know, an exact number of jobs and things like that. The model does that, but for a small job, I really don't think that's accurate, you know, from my experience with it. But yeah, that's the kind of things that are related to economic development. Yeah, just one more thing on that. You know, in some jobs where there's a long period of construction delays and disruptions, you know, there may be a drop, you know, where businesses go out of business because their access has been, you know, messed up for a long period of time. I mean, I think, you know, based on what Matt said, I don't think we really see that here, but I mean, that happens. You hear about that.
Did you need to take a moment to write all that down?
No,
Okay.
I'll just.
You just memorize it? Okay.
My name is Frank and I was one of your guys that was pushing that snow for about 10 years. I worked at District 5, out of District 5, retired from the service, came back home. But I've been here 55 years, and I'm not here to put nobody down. We're all trying. But is this money set in stone in the year 2025? Because as long as I work for District 5, and I'm not trying to be upset, but they know here, we're like the bastard children here. And it's been like this for 55 years. My dad lives across the school right here. He's 87 years old. He's still climbing those sidewalks like this. And it's been 50-some years. Our school crossings for our kids. I just want to see how can we get all together and get united and make some stuff go on here in Mountainair. because they were gonna do this study back in 2017. And the guy that came and met us here, we went to Estancia, they had got Ted Varela to do something with the governor. They did some sidewalks in Estancia, and we got shafted. And that's my only concern. We have so many deaths that has happened this last year on Highway 60. How many more family members have we got to lose before someone listens? I love your study. It looks beautiful on paper, but I'm begging you, we need something in our little town. It is going down. It's embarrassing to go to the park, and it was the same slide that Richard was on when he was a kid, and he put 30-some years for the town of Mountainair. And you know what I'm saying? But I worked for District 5. I worked there. Our guy that met us, Phil Gallegos, they did the same study. He got thrown in prison for embezzlement. And we didn't get nothing here. But that's the honest to God truth. We need your help. I'm crying to you. I'm begging you, please. Don't just come and throw this stuff on paper, because it's been thrown on paper since my dad was born in 1941. Right. And I'm dead serious. We can even get snow blowers here from District 5 because they go to Santa Fe. We call for street sweepers. They wouldn't bring the street sweeping crew here. It was in Santa Fe. And I know that we had nice machines up there to clean the snow, like Roy said, Roy Spencer. You got machines up there that will pick that snow and throw it, but you cannot get it here in District 5. They give you one blade, a mule, and a shovel. And that's the honest to God truth. I don't know what it is. If you go down to Cajique, you go down to Estancia, these roads are made for the Model T and the Model A. They're this wide. No shoulders, no nothing. And it's so embarrassing. We got the wind towers coming through here. Our railroad runs through here and beats the hell out of this infrastructure. Our truckers, our co-op. I mean, there's a lot of people that just use Mountainair. They use it. And then they split, and the hell with it, you know. But I'm doing this for our kids, for our grandchildren. Yeah. You know, I'm closer to that side already. But please, if there's any way you guys can do anything, I'd appreciate it. And thank you.
Yeah. So I didn't know if you need a response from that, but I mean, you know, we're going as quick as we can. We're kind of overlapping some of our right-of-way acquisitions with design. So, you know, we're trying to get this done as quick as we can.
Because the governor's tired of hearing me already. You probably heard my name in the governor's office. Yeah. Jeremy Romero was down here with me. He's a handicap guy. That's the governor's secretary. He couldn't believe the sidewalks and how they were paying their bills, especially the handicap people.
I definitely agree, and we hear you, and we're going to move this project along as fast as we can. So, you know, but I mean, with that, I want to take a few more questions from the audience.
I've got a couple of things. So one is how on the Central Business District, how wide are those sidewalks? Are those going to be shrink down to 5 foot?
That's what we're showing now. I mean, if we can get any more out of that, then we certainly will. If we can get 6 or 7 feet, we'll definitely shoot for that.
So my concern is I'm a Todd Sledge, by the way, sorry. I'm a business owner down there, and also I'm a real estate broker. Right now, you know, we set up for festivals and things, and so already with festivals on those sidewalks, there's only so much space to walk, let alone handicap accessibility. And so I think that our sidewalks are more beneficial than some other options that we have here. I do have some other things. The back-end parking, other than the bike lane needing that, and I understand that completely, I don't think anybody really in town is necessarily for a back-end parking. I could be wrong, and we should talk about that. But is it possible to reroute the bike lane before the Central Business District, where you can come off of Ross down Main Street and bypass the whole? I mean, I know y'all are going to do that, but that would be a perfect option to give us that space for sidewalk for front-end parking, which everybody's used to, and then it'd still allow for bikes, which we have 3, and they would still be able to ride through town. You know, I'm all for bringing bicyclists in, but I don't think we should penalize what we're actually doing in the community with the hopes of bringing bicyclists in. I think it's beneficial down the way. Last one. We have motels on both hotels and motels on both ends of the town. And if we're going to do sidewalks to encourage people to actually walk, it'd be better to actually have sidewalks that extended from visitors from one hotel to the other end to get to the central business district. If that's the idea, to encourage walking, that we should actually have that urban option. And I'm not even sure, I mean, I think that's a whole other conversation of how you are going to affect the curve on the south side for some of the businesses there, that if you put a sidewalk in, you're going to actually run through the business on that curve by the school and stuff. So I don't know if sidewalks are just one side of the road or both sides, but that's kind of irrelevant for my question at this point. But that's my
Okay, so
questions.
I'm actually,
Comments or
Jenny,
complaints.
it's John, just a minute on that one. You all set there, John? Okay.
Tell me your name again.
Todd Sledge.
So I'm gonna take the last question first. You know, wherever we put sidewalks, we like to have them on both sides of the street, wherever we can. And what we've laid out, there's plenty of right of way for those. So we don't anticipate, you know, I mean, the conflicts, most of the conflict with the sidewalk is actually with what I'm gonna describe as access management. So some of the businesses right now, you know, there's just this kind of, you know, there's no defined driveway or anything like that. So it's just wherever you pull off the road, you either park or you access the business like that. Once we do sidewalks and curb and gutter, that has to change, because we don't want that willy-nilly mix of pedestrians and that traffic crossing. So we focus that to driveways and specific access locations so that people can anticipate, okay, yeah, I'm crossing a driveway, let me look both ways type thing. So that's, we focus those driveways. So that's the only kind of impact I see, really. I mean, our right of way, we have plenty of room for that. There has been some build down into the right of way that we've seen, that we're gonna have to discuss with the property owners for sure. So we're gonna have to address that with individual property owners, and on an individual basis, we go through and address it. We don't like to do it in a public forum like this, because it's really contentious a lot of times. So we do it one-on-one. As far as the sidewalks going east towards Willard, I don't know about that direction.
Right.
Yeah, I think, I don't see any drawback to us actually extending the sidewalks that way. So, you know, up to the other end, basically the EOP, that end of town. I think we have storm drain going that far, so catchment isn't an issue. It's kind of more, you know, when I was laying those out, when those were laid out originally, I guess I shouldn't say live, but when those were laid out originally, we were just kind of going with, you know, where we saw the businesses on the side that, you know, but there's no other.
Future businesses.
Yeah, exactly. So you're exactly right. We'll look at extending those and seeing how that lays out.
Bike lane dropping off at Ross and coming down Main Street.
Right, so the bike lanes, yeah, so rerouting the bike lanes off of US-60.
Well, not off completely, but just through the central.
But just through the central business district, correct.
Down Main Street.
Yeah. That is an option. It's difficult with the funding that we have, because the funding a lot of times is tied to that multimodal. We have to demonstrate that the town, you know, I mean, there's a lot of steps that have to be taken to make sure that the feds go, oh yeah, this was taken care of, check, you know, and moving on so that can be done. So that's, it takes a lot, you know. Not gonna say it's impossible, but it does take a lot.
So widening is keeping the sidewalks wide on the central business district.
Yeah, I think we can do that. We can look into that. Some of the scenarios that we show, there's at least 2 feet. I know that doesn't sound like very much, but in terms of sidewalk going from 5 to 7, it's quite a bit. 5 to 10 is a little bit rough. I mean, if we were to add that, because I think right now they're closer to 8 or 10 in some of those areas. And in order to do that, we have to really pinch that median in the middle. We were counting on that median to actually get the street lights in that we wanted to. The bases on those street lights are 2.5 feet wide, and we don't like to have them right next to the driveway either. We like to have a little bit of a buffer, at least 18 inches on either side to accommodate a little bit of grace for people. So we don't like to pinch that median down too much, but we can gain possibly a little bit out of, the driving lane or some of that stuff, so we can look at that. These are just kind of starting points for us. Definitely good to get the comments and hear your perspective on those kinds of things.
So other than trying to get a bike lane in, is there really anybody in town that's all for the back end parking?
I do have some comments, and I'm not going to say name names or anything, but we do have some comments in support of back end and parking. I'm going to go.
Thank you. My name is Ernie Lopez. I got a question on if it were to stay head-end parking on the angle parking. In that scenario, is there still a median in the middle?
Thank you, Ernie. So there doesn't have to be, in that case, the median in that scenario, in the back end scenario, is there to basically force, so you don't just cut across the double yellow in the middle and park head end on the opposite side of the street. So the median would force people to back in. But if it's head end angle parking and people want to back across the street, I don't.
We do it now.
So no, the median wouldn't be required, but again, it does help with the lights, it helps with the speed. I guess it's detrimental to snow collection, but the point being that it would be there for the lights. So do you have a real quick follow-up?
Well, I like the idea of the median being there regardless of whatever angle we take, because it does stop people from cutting in the opposite way.
Issue.
So I like the idea of the median either way.
And with the 6-foot wide median, it does allow for pedestrian refuge at the intersections.
My name is Matthew Lisk. I'm representing Western Hardware here tonight. I have a question similar to Mr. Spencer and Mr. Anaya about the median and the sidewalk access. The main thing was he was talking about a lot of trucks coming through town. We have a huge amount of heavy traffic, oversized loads, stuff like that. The main thing I'm worried about is not so much the traffic through Mountainair, but at the hardware, we actually get truck deliveries 3 or 4 times a week. So exiting and entering the highway with the median and with the sidewalks being added in, are those just going to get constantly run over and turn into rubble within a couple of years, or is there going to be enough access for them to actually get wide enough to get out into the highway?
So with that, usually, when those larger vehicles are making those movements, the bike lane actually helps in that scenario, because they can use the bike lane. Obviously, they're going to check the bike lane before they go crossing into it, but they can use that space, get further away from the median, and then their off-tracking isn't hopefully over the nose. When we design these, right now these are real preliminary designs. When we go to essentially set these things in stone, we do a vehicle turning movement template on it. So we pick a design vehicle. I imagine you guys run a 53-foot trailer or something, so we usually establish that in our guidance and run that template and see where things start to off track.
Right, because they're usually always park on the side street, 60 right there, right in that main area by the grocery store.
Okay.
And if those were sidewalks, so they were constantly, it's kind of hard for them to even get the highway out the way it's designed. So with sidewalks, like I said, I'm sure they would be able to get out in there, it's just would be less experienced truckers be hitting those medians constantly.
Yeah.
And kind of what Mr. Knight was saying, with us being on the back lane all the time, would those just be rubble and never fixed again?
Right. Yeah. Maybe what we could do is make the whole nose just one continuous piece of concrete, so that it's really reinforced. I lost track of who's next, so hopefully I'm not jumping the line. I know you've had that before.
My name is Gary Swanson. I'm with St. Vincent de Paul downtown, and I've got a couple comments. Okay, first, I appreciate you, Todd, and what you said regarding the sidewalks. We don't know the width of the sidewalks downtown, but according to this chart, it could be 5 or even less. It looks like it might be less. If we do, I'm a proponent of the angle-in parking. This to me is what we've been used to. It doesn't seem to have presented any problem over the last 35 years that I've been here. I don't think I've ever seen an accident that's happened out there, but there probably has happened. Bicycle lane, I can't even imagine why we need one, except maybe the Fed regulations require that if you're going to do a project like this, you've got to have some kind of bicycle access. We're not a resort town. We're a business and working man's town, working class town, I should say. So the angle parking, if we do the angle parking that apparently is recommended, we're a town of trucks as well as cars. Some trucks are dualies. Some trucks are not, but large. And if they back in to the post office or St. Vincent or the Mezzanore or wherever, they're going to impede on the sidewalk. They're not going to stop, when the back of the truck gets to the sidewalk. They're going to back up maybe until their wheels hit the sidewalk. That's going to be a problem for people, and dangerous. So I think that just trucks. I'm also concerned about the back-end parking. We've got an elderly population. I'm one of them. I can't guarantee that I'm not going to run into the car next to me or truck next to me as I stop, look around, back up, stop, get myself back out again, back in. I just think that's problematic, really problematic. And one accident requires an insurance, probably. Maybe a call to a police officer to come over and investigate whatever that happens. But I just think the front angle parking is the more appropriate way to go. Now, maybe from other meetings that you've held, you seem to get the impression that the town is in favor of the recommended, back-in parking. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but you should take a vote and find out what people actually are thinking. Also, with St. Vincent de Paul, once a month we receive Road Runner Food Bank delivery. And it's a semi-truck. Right now, the truck pulls in next to the Christian Center. It offloads the pallet mover, brings the pallets down, and has to drop the pallets off and then move away. Right now, we have plenty of room to be able to facilitate that. If you shrink that sidewalk, that's going to be a problem for us. Now, we could recommend that the driver park on the highway until he offloads. I guess that would probably be an appropriate solution, impeding traffic on Highway 60. So there's some considerations that maybe you folks haven't heard about, and just my thoughts.
I don't want to do any voting because not everybody in the town is here. It'll be sort of
Are you ever
unfair.
going to find out? Are you ever going to take a vote then? How will you actually know? You don't
Public
know.
comment.
If you really don't know what the town's position is on the parking.
Well, I mean, we'll collect the public comments and work through those, and so.
And if you do that,
Could you define something mobile? What does that mean? Is it only, because I mean, we have trucks and bikes, it's two mobiles. Like, is it only bikes that gets that qualification, multimodal?
No, the multimodal refers to the vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrians. So that's, when we say multimodal, that's,
Okay,
those are.
so can the bike lanes be moved against the sidewalk as opposed to in the road?
So that was a question that was asked earlier, and there was, my response to that was all of our guidance says don't put the bike lanes between parking and the sidewalk, because people are crossing that area. I mean, so if bikes are going in, you got pedestrians crossing, vehicles are right close, and there's a lot going on, so.
The same logic applies to motor vehicles, so it's fine for us to mix people on bikes and motor vehicles, but mixing humans walking and humans on bikes.
But you've got essentially parking vehicles that are stopped and not moving, and then you've got a bike lane where people might be moving at close to, let's say, somewhere between 4 and 10 miles an hour. It's very narrow. And then you've got pedestrians adjacent to that, maybe with little kids that wander right off into the bike lane. And, that's just what our guidance is saying, is don't put the bike lanes, don't try to put bike lanes between sidewalks and parked cars. They've done that in the past, but they usually have like a good 5-foot space where there's plenty of room where people can see. But the problem is if you get like a larger, say a big van or something that blocks that view of that bicyclist, and the pedestrian coming out from between those cars where you can't see, and you've got a conflict point right there. So, that's just what our guidance is telling us. I don't want to go against that.
The thing is, on these bike lanes, they're there, so what? It's not gonna mess up anything. But if you put it next to the sidewalk, your car that's backing up may take the whole thing. He'll be sticking in it anyway, so that doesn't work. And when you're on a bicycle anyway, you should be in the traffic lane, and the traffic should slow down. They're already going 25 or 20, so, and the bike lane doesn't matter, the way I see it, unless you're driving one whole wheel in the bike lane, but, so I don't see why that's a big thing. I just don't like that medians, because you're gonna have snow pile in the middle.
Right. I think
I have a question. Well, actually, it's a question, comment. My name is Jesse Lotus, and I'm just wondering, why fix what's not broken? Everything's been working the way it is now. Can we just get some new asphalt, some new sidewalks, new light poles, and some drainage, and some more handicap accessible sidewalks? Right. And I think that would be awesome. And then do the angle parking.
So,
the bike lanes go in the middle.
We definitely hear what you're saying. The feds say since there's not bike lanes, there is something broken. There's not that accommodation. That's
Getting the bike lane, so what if they put that somewhere along, we'll just maybe keep everything else the same, just go.
Just one thing, the feds, if they say we need a bike lane just for that 1.5 miles,
maybe just put a bike lane.
the guy that got hit by the judge out here and got killed wasn't even in town. He was on Highway 60, and there's not even a shoulder there. So these guys that are riding from Belen all the way to Mountainair, into Estancia, Santa Fe. Why are we so worried about a mile and a half? Like you said, you could go down Main Street.
Maybe keep everything how it is, just as the bike lane is, and we can call it that, so nothing different.
Yeah.
We do need some new light poles, and asphalt, it's been over 25 years, I think, since it's been done.
right. And to that, when the asphalt gets fixed, the sidewalks and stuff here are part of our plan that gets into way too much detail, but is to change sort of the grades of the road so that there is only that differential of the curve between the paved surface and your front doors.
Because we do need more handicap accessible.
Right.
There's a guy here, the town, the 4 guys, they're ramping it.
So it's, if it were just a quote maintenance project of asphalt and light poles and those kinds of things, but there's a few other things like the curb bulb outs, and that's a big concern, is that the sidewalks right now just kind of wrap around the corner, and there's supposed to be a 20-foot separation between the crosswalk and parking, so that people can see those pedestrians, and that's what our bulb outs solve, is that separation.
Maybe add all those in to kind of keep it similar to what we have, and then maybe just, of course, if we have to add in that bike lane, that's awesome. Handicap accessible, and if you have to do where the intersections are, kind of offset them, maybe something like that, but kind of keep it basis from what we're kind of doing now, what we have, it's been working.
What is the width of the median?
The width of the median right now, it's 6 feet, so.
Accommodate the bike lane in both directions,
I'm sorry, say that.
Would that accommodate a bike lane in both directions if you put bikes through that section, just the business section, it could be on the side?
Yeah, all of our stuff says never put the bike lane on the left unless it's a one-way. You can do it if it's a one-way road, then, you know, but because of left turns, there's a conflict there, and people aren't expecting bicyclists on that side of the vehicle. So.
No one's expecting us. But.
I know,
I think we should, yeah, I know you're a bicyclist, that's why.
So, I think we can, I was done. Oh, okay.
Okay, Kathy again. So there are two, you're doing a great job, by the way. Thank you for listening. It's important. But I wonder if there could be a dismount area in the business district where people can get off their bikes and are required to walk their bike and thus avoid no bike lane in the business district, and then we can get our pull-in parking instead of reverse. I've seen those in many states where you, like the dismount areas, so like when you're coming up to the business district, there's a sign that says, get off your bike and walk it. And so you're walking, it slows the cyclists down to enjoy the businesses and maybe go shopping, maybe go go to the grocery store or something, stop at the post office, and then thus you won't have that bike lane behind the parking areas, and then we can go, instead of reversing, we can pull in. Just a thought. I've just seen those in different communities, and so it could also meet the grants, the multimodal. Just wanted to throw that out there. Oh, can I get to my comment?
Yeah.
Unless you had a comment.
I was going to try to answer this.
Oh, I meant.
I'll hand it back to you.
Go ahead.
Just going to get John there. Okay. So, I hear what you're saying, and that I have seen the dismount. But usually the dismounts that I've seen are in pedestrian zones, and so like college campuses and things like that. I've never seen one where where it's integrated with the streets. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying I've never seen it. I don't know if the feds would say that fits the bill, but we would certainly ask the question. I don't know, does that answer your question? Okay, so, pass the mic.
My name is Richard Torres Jr., and I know people already brought this up to you, but you said you're not going to take a vote, that you're going to go by the comments. So once again, I don't believe that backing up will work in the parking. Some people can't even drive forward, much as backwards, man. And like Mr. Swanson said, there's a lot of elderly in this town, there'll be a lot of accidents. So since you guys are taking votes, you're going by comments, I figured I'll let you know again.
Thank you for your comment.
My name is Rex Harris. A couple of quick comments. I think the bike lanes are just a politically correct thing. They're not necessary as far as I'm concerned. And another thing, why aren't you stopping at 2.5? Why not go to another 500 feet, 700 feet to the city limits and make it a little nicer? Grab a couple of million from some other projects and take care of that.
Okay. Bike lanes, political, I mean, you know, we can't avoid them at this point. I mean, we'll look into some things, but right now, I mean, that's what we've got as that guidance. As far as where the project stops at, I mean, that's how the funding is set up. We have to set up limits to start with. You know, in order for that to go further, I think it'd have to be a whole other different project. So the funding is tied to the limits of the project when it goes down. So hopefully that answers your question. Yes. Oh, sorry.
My name's Mary Hewitt, and most of y'all know me. My big question on this is with the diagonal back-in parking, that means the vehicle has to stop in traffic, change gears, and back in. What's going to happen when the semis that come through our town on a regular basis plow the 8-year-old that's trying to get her car into reverse to back in? Unless you have a completely separate lane that they can pull into to park, they're going to be impeding traffic on 60 repeatedly, trying to make that back up. And we've seen repeatedly that this does not work. The roundabouts don't work. UNM found that out when people were making left-hand turns through the roundabouts. If you try to change that in this town, what you're going to have is you're going to have people that are still pulling in the wrong direction. They're going to pull straight in, but now they're going to be angled opposite. People coming, say they're going eastbound, they're going to cross the double yellow line because then they can pull straight into this new angled parking. So we're going to run into a couple of problems with that, to where you're going to be setting up the state or the town or somebody for lawsuits when we get people smeared out here on 60, because they can't just pull in. That's going to be a problem. And then later I want to address drainage, because the entire town's drainage runs into my property. I can't even use 3 acres. You can ask Richard, you can ask about it. I've got 3 acres I can't use because the entire town drains into my property.
Okay, so the back-end angle parking, I mean, even if it was head-end angle parking, at some point you're backing into traffic, stopping, changing gears, and then going the other way. So this sets it up so that.
I understand, but they were getting in the car to back out, saying like they are right now. So the post office get in the car, go to back out, they're looking. When they're going to now do their new backing, they're just going to stop in the middle of 60 and get into reverse and back in. And anybody coming into town, especially the semis, that don't see these cars suddenly stopping, or then have either a traffic jam or an impact. And as a paramedic in this town for 33 years, I don't want to see it, because I've not seen bad accidents right here with the parking problem. We've had an occasional person run over because they walked behind and somebody didn't see them, but we haven't had cars crashing into one another. We haven't had semis slamming into cars. You're fixing to make my job and the rest of the EMS and fire and police's job a lot harder by putting back in.
Okay. Let's see, the drainage, we're not, our impervious area is not adding significant amount for what we are adding. We're including ponds so that the historic flows don't change. So that the patterns that are there are the ones that we're sticking with. We're not increasing the runoff volume to the ultimate outfall location. So we're metering that with ponds.
Yeah, but the problem is where it goes out of town, just east out of town. It goes down, if y'all don't have already just cut, going east, so it runs right into my property and keeps it flooded. I can't do anything with 3 acres, because it's flooded, and it is within city limits.
Right, and those are I mean, those are outside of our project limits, but they are the city, I mean, those are the established drainage patterns. I'm not sure how to, I mean, most of the drainage that's coming, it's actually going through our project. Not much of it is generated because of the project. It's just a result of it
No, I
going through.
understand it's not, but y'all are here to make improvements in everything from sidewalks to bike lanes to drainage. Why is it that the drainage that is on US-60, which is y'all's property, is running into my property? That's kind of my question there. Why is that not repaired along with 60 from 47 to Mountainair? Which is like the worst stretch in the state, 69 by 60 all the time.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely look into that and see what we can do about that. So. Let's see it. Right now, we only got one, so.
One more question. Gentleman over here who said the bypass, the bike lane could go around me. That fantastic idea. But that would include, we have to pave the roads in order to get the bike lane through. We we have no paved roads in town. There are potholes on the roads. We've been trying for years to get the roads in town paved. So that's another problem. And my second question is, if we don't have bike lanes, do we lose this grant, this money? Is it contingent on having bike lanes? Is that what the law is now in New Mexico? You must have bike lanes, and green things are priorities, and all that crap.
Is it true? Yeah, is it dependent upon bike lanes? And if so, what about this mountain area? I mean, is that an option?
Right, and those are all things that we want to look into and ask those questions.
Well, that was some kind of piggyback. Do we lose money? If we don't have bike lanes?
We want to ask that question. I mean, I don't write the check, so I don't know the answer.
You know the guidance that you have, the answer.
We do it, and a lot of the stuff says that multimodal is the way to go. Almost like if we said we wouldn't do ADA, if we didn't put in the curb ramps, then the feds would say, well, we're not gonna participate.
But that's a legally protected class. Bicyclists are not.
You mean they're not going to make us look like electric cars?
I'm not in control.
What's gonna happen, Lou, if they don't do something like this here, we're gonna lose our budget, and we're gonna have to pay for another 30 years today, right? With bike lanes, so we need to get something done. But they don't have electric.
Yeah. I think we'll move on. Go ahead, sir. Can you say your name?
Lawrence Romero, I live over on Forest. There's two areas of town that are, in my mind, are conflicting with your project, and that's the Acoma area, where 3 streets in question, and then also the Corbett and Third, and right before the Dollar General, that whole turn right there. Is there, well, my concern is, according to the map back there, it's kind of cut off, and it affects the people that live in that particular area. My question is, how are you guys responsible for the barricading or the whatever it takes?
That's a good question, because it's not there.
You know, because if it's Mountainair, it probably ain't gonna happen. You know, and so I'm wondering, when you go to divert the roads so that you only have the 4 stops, is that, the rest of that up to us?
The rest of the, like the installation of the cul-de-sac, or? Right.
It meets Third.
Right.
60.
Yeah.
You have to put something in there to cut the road.
Right, so that slide on the left is, I think, what you're referring to, and so that would be with Corbett is.
Little road right there.
Right.
You know, it kind of comes and everybody gets confused in a little bit, but my point is that if you're going to make that a 4-way, how do you do that? How do you create some big pile of dirt, or what do you do?
So Corbett would be cul-de-sac with curb and gutter, right? And you wouldn't be able to get access to US-60 from Corbett.
Yeah.
So coming from the south will be curb and gutter. What about coming back on the north? Will there be a barricade there?
Yeah.
That would keep people from coming through?
There it is. So this is all curb and gutter right through here.
Okay, that's added in.
Right, yeah, that's all.
Curb and gutter would be the barricade.
Right.
So that part right there is going to be barricaded or something. You're going to put curb and gutter maybe a cul-de-sac.
Right.
Okay, and that's pretty much the same plan for Acoma.
No, Acoma looks more like this.
Yeah.
What about coming off the highway?
So when we come off the highway, we redo the grading and the tapers and everything like that, and really just try to cut it at a.
Or if it's the urban, it would have a curb and.
Yes, exactly, yeah. So. Okay.
My name is Ernest Rabi, and I live
live on that side, the I-60, but on that side, that corner, there's pile of water in that way, in the road, and that one right there, that road, the corners, there's pile of hole right there. And I need to put up a tar with that thing all the way to down to the road. That's what I need to put there.
Okay, so we're at Acoma or?
What's the name of your street? The name of Felipe Walton Road, the sites. The my
Limit and Hannon, I think it is. Hannon.
Oh, okay. Right off the US-60?
Yeah, there's a road there, there's 2 gates, so there's another gate across the street. There's a lot of water in your corner.
Right, okay, yeah, and so we would, a lot of that asphalt that's there, especially if it's, you know, we redo that to where it's a better formalized ditch, and it collects the water, get it to a pipe, over there now.
So you're saying it needs letters?
Okay, yeah, I mean, we probably would try to avoid the asphalt of the ditch if possible, and just, you know, grade it with dirt, I mean, it would be, you know, 6 to 1 or, you know, flat or something fairly flat, but graded out so it would all drain. Yeah.
Hey, with all the talk of the parking, there's been nothing addressing handicap parking that I've understood.
So, in mix in with all that parking, we would put handicap spaces. It's not detailed out, but we go back to the manuals and figure out, okay, this is how many spaces we have, so this is how many of those need to be handicapped, and the ramps, you know. I didn't get into that much detail, because sometimes we put them in the middle, sometimes we put them on the ends, depending on which is the most, you know, advantageous place to put them, that kind of thing. So it gets into a little bit of detail, but there will be handicap parking mixed in with all the rest of the parking. So.
My name is Ann Ravenstone, and I'm here representing the Manzano Mountain Art Council because I have a question about our sidewalk. I don't know if you know where that building is, right there on the corner of 60 and 55, but currently our curb is 2 big steps up. And I'm just wondering if you thought about how you're going to deal with that.
We have thought about that. We've actually, you know, tested the model out 3-dimensionally. So some of what we'll do is center line of the road, we change that up and down a little bit. We also change the grade, the cross slope of the road. We're going to do that throughout the town so that you don't have these weird steps and things like that. So
Just have a regular curb.
yeah, just don't get too close to the road because it's probably going to be doing this, you know. So, but you know, hopefully it's not. I mean, the hard part is that these buildings are already established. You know, ideally, you do the road and everybody matches grid and all looks pretty when it's all done. But historic districts, we kind of run into this a little bit. We have to, like, you know, we get creative and we tilt the road certain ways so that everything coalesces and we just get hopefully that 6-inch height difference between the street grade and top of curb is what we're looking for. And then we can accommodate that with ramps. So, okay, I've got a question over here.
Speaking to the MMDC.
Yeah, just your name real quick.
I'm Marty Howard, I'm a resident. Speaking to the MMA issue, I've been there when the rains come. Now you're talking about putting the drainage through the middle of the road, is that true? Did you mention that, or is it going on the sides of the roads like the rest of the world does?
I think on the side, I'm not sure.
Okay, the reason I'm asking the question is because granted that is a huge big step, but I've been there in the rain and it darn near comes over that step. It's like this, the 2 steps are like this. So as long as you're talking about the side of the roads, I can see it making sense. I misunderstood that about a great.
Oh, yeah, no, so, I mean, part of to answer that, this is in the business district down, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, so to answer that, I mean, one of the ways we'll capture a lot of that flow that's not being captured now, it just all runs through town. So we'll capture that in inlets and storm drains. So that's going to help out a lot. Some of this, because of the tilting, we might have inlets in the median, you know, to capture that flow before it starts crossing the street. So. Okay.
A couple of questions.
pretty harmless. Are you aware that I believe about 2 or 3 years ago, the fiber optic people came through town and they ran fiber along the curbing, I know on the north side of the street. Are you aware of that? Okay, well, it's okay. But it's, I mean, they dug up, well, actually, they channeled under and ran their cabling along there, so it may interfere with your drainage system. That's just something you have to know.
Right, yeah. So I've got an answer to that. You want to answer?
The other comment is there any collaboration with the city of Mountainair on this project? In other words, are they buying in to repair, replace, upgrade any of the road systems, or from the city's point of view, do you know if there's been collaboration going on?
There has been collaboration along this.
Okay.
As far as
anything specific? I mean, I don't know. Dennis is gone, so I can't ask him, but I will.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have any major objections to, you know, the alternatives that have been proposed. The roundabouts were already eliminated.
Well, I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about how Mountainair is going to upgrade the facilities that are not a part of your project. You know, like along 3rd Street or you know, the paving.
Tying into your drainage or something like that. But that hasn't been talked about because it doesn't affect.
The only discussions that we've had is that there has been coordination with the town of Mountainair and another consultant for the drainage, for like a drainage master plan. That's as much as I know. I don't know the status of it or where it sits.
The streets or anything like that, which was mentioned.
Yeah, right. And for the utility side of things, we do a utility coordination effort. If the utility's in the right of way and they're in our way, the DOT's way, so if there's an inlet or something, they typically have to move out of the way. They have to move their facilities out of the way. So, yeah. I've seen that we would do a utility survey right before we, you know, go to do stuff. So.
Lawrence Romero again. I'm trying to follow the road, and when it starts to turn, we talk about going like west, and it turns basically by the Dollar General and family thing. How much of is DOT responsible for that area? I mean, does it extend into the business frontage, or is it only limited to the sidewalk?
I do get what you mean. And so the DOT in that scenario is responsible obviously for whatever's in the right of way. You know, that's, and then if we're changing the grades of US-60 significantly and those kinds of things, we would need to tie those driveways, those side streets back in, especially if they're realigned, right? So we determine how far we need to go to make that driveway, that connection to those businesses, you know, so that they maintain that connection. So we would get a work permit or a temporary construction permit, usually for driving, it's a work permit. Delineate that, figure out how far we need to go, delineate it, and then reconstruct the driveway. Because if we're lowering the road through there, well, then the driveway has to get reconstructed. That's not on the property owner, that's on the project.
One of my concerns is that in the town, there's kind of a, I mean, you can use the word blighted area. That turn and way that it was developed, there used to be a forever on there before they bought the land, the Dollar General. And so that whole area where it starts to turn and head west is really a crappy looking place. And so, yes, curvy better will help. Sidewalk will help tremendously. But beyond that, that's not your responsibility to do.
No, it's typically not. I mean, there's one area where we have a storm drain detention plan, and that would be improved through like a bioswale, you know, that type of stuff. So we would use, you know, some landscaping, things like that for that piece of property right there that we're impacting, that we're changing, modifying. Everything outside of that, you know, it would be actually violation of a few things for the DOT to make those improvements off of the project. related to that kind of thing, so, yep. Okay, before I forget, I have to remove the banners that are at the BOP, EOP, and in the middle of town. If you see somebody out there with a truck and that kind of stuff, we're just taking down the banners, so just FYI. Any more questions? Looks like, oh, no, Commissioner Jackson.
My name is Jose Torres, town council member, and I still have a concern about the parking, front end, rear end parking, and I believe, like they said here in this quarter, I think it should go to a voting of some kind. I don't know what you can work out or whatever to let the people vote as how do they want it. And I'm wondering that to back up, I know that I've gone to Albuquerque where you have to tear down part and just have to stop the traffic in front of you to be able to let you get in there. That's pretty basically the same. So my concern is that we should have some kind of a vote for the public, you know, so however you can work that out. And I also do have a concern about the bikers, but maybe that's something else that can be brought up and see what they can work out with us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we're not taking votes, but we are reading the comments, especially, you know, the ones mailed in, the ones on the website, what you stated here. So, I mean, I think, you know, go to the website or you know, mail a comment in, email a comment in, and then, you know, strong opposition, definitely have to take a look at it. So.
Hi, my name is Julie, I'm a resident. How many comments do you need as far as feedback? Earlier, I believe you said you received 13, which I believe that's probably considered pretty minimal. Are you basing that on the number of residents here, or how many comments do you guys want to receive to feel like you've adequately heard from the town?
Good question. So I'm not going to put a number on that, but the 13 that we received was the number that we received in the comment period that we had. So, I mean, if there were thousands of comments, we would have to tally, I don't want to say tally, but we would look at all those. You know, but 13 was the number that we had received during that virtual period. So it wasn't like we cut it off at 13, we just,
No, I know.
that was how many we had.
There are how many people here tonight? If everyone sends in a comment, do you consider that a valid representation of the entire town, or?
What does it take to turn the tide, I think, is the question.
Right, yeah, go ahead.
My name is Dana, I'm with the DOT. I just wanted to mention to all of you that in addition to public comment on the design and the proposed alternatives, we also look at safety metrics. We look at studies that have been done nationally for what is considered safe for all users, and that's the multimodal consideration that we are required to look at in order to spend federal funding in your town. So it's not a decision that we make strictly based on public comment. It's one of the factors that we consider in the decisions. So just to let you all know that. But we do, I mean, we do want your comments, and we do look at all of them and we consider them in the components of the design.
Just real quick, just clear for us, if we go with front end parking and some alternative for bike lane, is that really an option? Is that an option at all, or do we have to do back end parking with the bike lane to satisfy the requirements? I mean, that's really what we're asking. Is there a possibility of front end parking and an alternative bike lane?
And I'm just going to say I don't want to answer that right here, right now. I think we want to, you know, take that and take it. You know,
have you ever seen it anywhere else?
Yeah. What's that?
I mean, have you seen an alternative in any other project you've done?
In New Mexico, especially.
In New Mexico, rural would be nice.
Good question.
I don't think I've come across this scenario, to be honest with you, before.
And in other rural communities, have they all been, I mean, has this been what they wanted and done and everybody's happy and y'all just go with it, or do you just push it through because it has to be? I mean, I understand there has to be safety, we don't want people getting ran over. But other experiences.
Again, this is relatively a novel approach, to be honest with you, you know, for me in this experience.
What about the department's experience?
Well, in my experience with the department, this is a relatively new concept. I don't know that I've seen it on many of my projects, maybe not any of my projects, but this is really one of the only like small town urban projects I've been involved in, so I can't fully answer your question, but I think that it warrants more research, honestly. We can look into it some more.
I think the big distinction here that I want to make is that usually we rarely encounter actually on-street parking in DOT right-of-way, you know, of this nature. So, you know, it's not typically something that lands on a lot of projects. I've got, you know, projects up in Taos that they had parallel parking to begin with. So we weren't really modifying anything. We were just going with it. And so there's no objection or change or anything because it was pretty much what was there. So, you know, I mean, it's kind of this narrow effect. I mean, I'm not trying to really point out too much, but I mean, even on the map, you can see the cars underneath, and they're kind of every direction on there. So, I mean, obviously the striping, you know, is going to help. So there's that. And, I don't know. Did you want to say something, Jim? Oh, okay.
I want to say that I'm 67 years old and I can't see my mom backing up. I guess she would have to stop driving more, I guess. I don't know, I just can't see my mom doing it. Walk down the one side.
I have a question. What is the purpose of back up, right? Why can't you get back? What are we saving by doing that? Instead of coming in this way, instead of do this and this? What are we saving? Because I am 75 years old. It is not safe for me to be backing up. There is a law, there's a comment everywhere that backup driving is not safe anyway. And now we're gonna have to do it. And a lot of people, you know, economic development, people are gonna come down here to do anything if that's a backup and it's something. You know, I mean, it's not easy to back up. It's not easy for me. It really isn't. I've been driving for a very long time. I can back and brake, but now I can't. And you have a mom that's 65. I'm 75, and I'm telling you, I don't know what you're saving. If I'm going to go in this way, or if I'm going to go this way, and then this way. I mean, what are we saving space? What is the point of that? Give me a reason.
So the benefit to the back-end angle parking is it puts the driver on the side of the vehicle that they can see the oncoming traffic. So when you're backing out into traffic, because you do have to back out.
I can see very well backing out into the traffic because I can look out and see that, you know, but there's no, I mean, it's not like a lot of cars here. Do you guys live here? Do you visit here often? How many bicycles do we have? And how many cars? Yes. Okay. I mean, really? I mean, is this a foregone conclusion? You know, you're not really listening to us and you're giving us all these reasons or justifying what you put on paper? That's what it sounds like to me. Oh, my name is Gloria Chavez. I've been here my entire life. Moved away, I lived in Albuquerque. I've lived there's traffic when there's not, and there's not a lot of traffic in this town. And I don't see a point in it at all. And I don't think anybody here does. I don't know. Except you guys, I don't know. It seems like
I'm going to take your, yeah.
So you're saying like the back of the park is going to save, if you're going to hit bicycles, right? It's going to save you from cracking the other one. If you're parked right, it's going to save you from you won't be able to see a bicycle. That's what you're going to say. Right?
If you park.
Like if you park parallel, like we've been
At an angle parking?
Yeah, at an angle parking. You're saying that the reason we can't do that is that we're not going to see the bicycle.
Through your back window, the back corner of your car, the other car.
Same thing. Because you're having to make sure.
But you just, so when you were approaching the spot, the lane was clear. You know, if the lane's not there, you wait for the bicycles to go by. You don't just run over the bicycles, right? Right, but isn't the driver engaged in the back out on the road?
In other words, put a power in first, drive forward, back up,
Back up.
back it up, another, same way. And you guys say